So, hi everyone, and welcome to another Zoom meeting, another podcast episode. If you're listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube, you can find out more about what we're doing on the website, www.acimwithkeith.com. You can listen to the podcast there. You can find out about our online community, how to get involved in the meetings, and paid private mentoring with myself if it interests you. Okay, so let's get on with today's meeting. And I want to deal with something which is quite tricky to get your head around. Um, this is what I would work a lot with private clients over. So let's begin with a quote from A Course in Miracles. It's from chapter 2, The Separation and the Atonement. It is section 3, The Altar of God. Tolerance for pain may be high, but it is not without limit. Eventually, everyone begins to recognize, however dimly, that there must be another way. As this recognition becomes more firmly established, it becomes a turning point. This ultimately reawakens spiritual vision, simultaneously weakening the investment in physical sight. The alternating investment in the two levels of perception is usually experienced as conflict, which can become very acute, but the outcome is as certain as God. So, what this is saying is that eventually everyone comes to the realization that there is something wrong with the way that we're perceiving the world. There is something wrong with how we're interacting in relationships. There is something not quite right about how we're using our minds because the pain never ends. Because the low level dis-ease, disharmony, and restlessness never stops, or it rarely stops, and not for very long. So eventually everyone realizes something is wrong. There's something wrong with how I'm using my mind. There's something wrong with how I'm perceiving the world. There's something wrong about the way we go about relationships. Something isn't right, and it's not working. That's the realization. It's not working. And so everyone at some point reaches the place where they're prepared to admit to themselves, it's not working. I've spent my whole life up until today years old saying, I'll be happy when I get these exams. I'll be happy when I get the right job. I'll be happy when I meet the right person. I'll be happy when that person treats me better. I'll be happy when we're married. I'll be happy when the kids. I'll be happy when I get that promotion I deserve. I'll be happy when I have more financial stability. And it never ends. It's a moving goalpost. It's live horse and get grass. Don't know if you say that in the US. We say that in Ireland. You know, keep going. Happiness is just around the corner. All that disease, all that unhappiness with yourself, all that sense of failure, it's all going to get resolved around the corner. And it never is. And A Course in Miracles calls that seek and do not find. And that's the context in the course where it says, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Do you want to keep lying to yourself that the lasting happiness you have sought all your life, the moving goalpost, that it's just around the corner? If you can just manipulate things, if you can manipulate people into loving you and staying with you and behaving the way you need them to behave towards you, somehow it's all going to work out. And it doesn't. And when we come to that realization, we're ready to explore another way. And this other way definitely involves a weakening of our investment in physical sight. Where the world is losing its ability to veil reality from us, the real world. That we're at a point where we're ready to overlook the appearances. And this is what reawakens spiritual vision. It's noteworthy, this last sentence. The alternating investment in the two different levels of perception is usually experienced as conflict, which can become quite acute, but the outcome is as certain as God. So even as we talk about these things, it can be quite destabilizing for the ego, for your imagined sense of separate self-identity. You can find that. But, and it says in the course that this happens. There's a period of instability, but there's nothing more unstable than an upside down perspective, which is how you've lived your whole life. So we don't want to lie to ourselves and say, oh, up until now, my life has been perfectly stable. And I start listening to A Course in Miracles or someone pointing to something outside of separate set identity. And suddenly I have all this destabilization. So A Course in Miracles is making the point of don't lie to yourself. There's been no stability there from the start. So this is introducing this idea that there must be another way. And A Course in Miracles is that other way. So let's investigate that. This is from chapter 5, Healing and Wholeness, and it's section 2, The Voice for God. Paragraph 7. The voice of the Holy Spirit does not command, because it is incapable of arrogance. It does not demand, because it does not seek control. It does not overcome, because it does not attack. It merely reminds. It is compelling only because of what it reminds you of. It brings to your mind the other way, remaining quiet, even in the midst of the turmoil you make. It's the other way. Remaining quiet, even in the turmoil that you make. Okay, let's contrast that, compare that with this. This is from the workbook, and it's part 1, What is Forgiveness? Paragraph 4. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is still and quietly does nothing. It offends no aspect of reality, nor seeks to twist it to appearances it likes. It merely looks and waits and judges not. So, it's the other way. Remaining quiet even in the midst of the turmoil you make. Forgiveness looks and waits and judges not. It quietly does nothing. It's the other way. So, what is the turmoil you make? Thoughts, feelings, stories, actions. That's the turmoil you make. The raucous shrieking of the ego. That's the turmoil. And A Course in Miracles says, does the Holy Spirit command that away? No. Does the Holy Spirit fight that or fix that? No. No. There's another way. And the other way is to find a peace that is always inside of you, no matter what the ego is doing. That's the other way. Let's take another quote. So this is from lesson 164, paragraph 4. There is a silence into which the world cannot intrude. There is an ancient peace you carry in your heart and have not lost. There is a sense of holiness in you the thought of sin has never touched. All this today you will remember. Faithfulness in practicing today will bring rewards so great and so completely different from all the things you sought before that you will know that here, in the silence, your treasure is, and here your rest. So A Course in Miracles is about being this silence in the midst of the turmoil you make, in the midst of the raucous shrieking of the ego. Course in Miracles calls them sick imaginings. And the other way is to remain silent and still amidst the noise. This is the silence into which the world cannot intrude, no matter what the ego is doing. This is the ancient peace you haven't lost. There's a peace shining in your mind now, no matter what the ego is doing. Why? Because you have a split mind. Yes, there's an insane half that thinks it's a body, thinks it has a past and a future, thinks it's an innocent victim, thinks it's a real separate self, surrounded by other separate selves, guilty to a lot of them, the cause of all my upset as an imaginary separate self. Okay, so the mind. You know, what we call the mind isn't what the Course in Miracles means when it uses the word mind. When A Course in Miracles uses the word mind, it's talking about this silence. Mindlessness is the insane voice talking to itself that pretends to be you. That's mindlessness. Okay, so the mind is this silence into which the world and thoughts and feelings and madness can't intrude. This is what the Course means by mind. So in terms of what we have normally understood as mind, which is this analyzing and comparing and planning and past and future, that's the mindless state. And the Holy Spirit isn't commanding that to be still. The Holy Spirit isn't fighting that. The Holy Spirit isn't judging that. The Holy Spirit is this silence that's in your mind anyway, because you have a split mind. You can't identify as both at the same time. So I can't identify as a thinker of the insane voice talking to itself or being the insane voice talking to itself. I can't identify as that and the silence into which the world cannot intrude, the peace of the Holy Spirit. I can't identify as both. However, this silence, this emptiness, this quiet, this stillness that is the Holy Spirit in my mind, when I identify here, There is a non-judgmental witnessing of the raucous shrieking, the sick imaginings, the turmoil your wrong mind makes. So the right mind can be aware of the activity of the wrong mind, but there's no identity in it. From my right mind, these are not my thoughts. These are thoughts happening. These are feelings happening, but there's no identity in them. Because I can't be both. If we go back to one of our old metaphors, I can't be what's in the cinema with Jesus and what's in the movie, which is a body and thoughts and feelings and stories, sensations. I can't be in the movie and outside of the movie at the same time. It's one or the other. But when I am here in the theater or above the battleground or awake outside the dream or in the natural state, whatever your preferred term is, there is a peace here nothing can touch, witness to everything that's changing. Thoughts, feelings, sensations, stories, bodies. There is something here that never changes. Witness to everything that changes, but changed by nothing. It is awareness itself. And the biggest mistake everyone thinks is, if I can just go and meditate for half an hour, I can sort of get there. Or if my state is a bliss state, or a happy state, or a joyous state, or a relaxed state, then this might be available to me. No, you don't know what this peace is. This peace is available in the midst of raging anger, darkest grief, blackest depression, relentless anxiety. This peace is always available. Always available. And that's what we want to talk about today, because this is the essence of what forgiveness is. It's a return to peace. Forgiveness isn't making your boo-boo go away. It's not taking away your anxiety or your depression or fighting it or shifting it or change. It's not for that. It's to return to the quiet center, the truth of who you are, at least the reflection of the truth of who you are in God in consciousness. You come home to the silence that nothing can touch. That's what forgiveness is. It brings you home to the truth of who you are, as I am. So when the I am that you are gets mixed up with mindlessness, with the activity of what we call the mind, thoughts and thinking and analysis and past and future and comparisons, when you get mixed up with that madness that has nothing to do with you, you, who are I am, you become deluded that you're now an I am this, a concept of a self. And the minute I am veils its identity from itself by identification with ego thoughts, its suffering begins. And it doesn't matter what's happening in the world, that is not the cause of your suffering. The cause of your suffering is because you got mixed up with thoughts. And you think you're something that doesn't exist, a concept of a self, an ego. That's the cause of your pain. I don't care what's happening in the world, that's not the cause of your pain. The cause of your pain is that you don't know the silence you are into which the world cannot intrude. You don't know the ancient peace you carry in your heart and haven't lost. You don't know the sense of holiness in you the thought of sin has never touched. You think you're an I am this, and your pain is excruciating. And you might want to blame the world for it, but the world, there's no meaning in the world. It's just emptiness dancing. Nothing I see means anything. The world doesn't mean anything. That's not doing anything to you. But getting mixed up with that big mess in your head, all those ego thoughts that you're a separate self, that you're apart from the whole, that you're an innocent victim, that people shouldn't do this. That's why. That's why you're suffering. Because you've overlooked the peace nothing can touch to mix yourself with the ego's thoughts and think yourself the imaginary thinker of the thoughts of an imagined separate self. That's the cause of all pain. You don't know who you are. You think you're something that doesn't exist. The self you made out of thoughts is not the Son of God. And therefore, this self doesn't exist at all. It is neither bad nor good. It is unreal and nothing more than that. Nothing it says or does means anything. Lesson 93. Well, the self you made, you've made it out of thoughts. You, who are the unlimited, unbounded I am, have made an identity for yourself out of thoughts as an I am this, a self-imposed illusory limitation that's experienced as pain and suffering. And the only solution is to blame the world for it. The world that means nothing. So there's the other way. Yes, there's an insane voice talking to yourself in your mind. So what? It's not you. Lesson 52. I have no private thoughts, but it's only private thoughts of which I'm aware. The thoughts of an imagined separate self. How could I have thoughts of a separate self when there's no separate self? But that's all I'm aware of. The thoughts of a separate self perspective, the innocent victim of the guilty world. But they don't mean anything. They're not sinful or bad or wrong or guilty. They're much less than that. They're nothing. They're wisps of nothing. And yet you constantly misperceive the truth of who you are because you get yourself involved with them instead of forgiving them. Instead of remaining quiet in the midst of the turmoil it makes. And that's all that's asked. Let's take one more quote. This is from chapter 29, The Awakening. It's from section 5, The Changeless Dwelling Place. There is a place in you where this whole world has been forgotten, where no memory of sin and of illusion lingers still. There is a place in you which time has left, and echoes of eternity are heard. There's a resting place so still, no sound except a hymn to heaven rises up to gladden God the Father and the Son. Where both abide, are they remembered both? And where they are is heaven and peace. So please do understand this. Forgiveness is not for making your boo-boo go away. It's not a band-aid because you're a hurt little ego and you need to pick yourself up and carry on with your miserable life and you just want a bit of help to get through the day. No. No, that's nonsense. Because you're not an ego. That's what's hurting you. This isn't about bandaging up your ego and sending you on your way to be victimized some more. The Course in Miracles says, you learn how to forgive the self you think you made and let it disappear. You don't fight it. You don't beat yourself over the head with A Course in Miracles over it. You forgive this imagined separate self-identity, the raucous shrieking, the sick imaginings that God's Son can be crucified, be a body, be an insane voice talking to itself. The turmoil you make when you wrong mind. And all that's asked as the other way is to remain silent and still in the midst of the turmoil you make. To be still and quietly do nothing. To look, wait, and judge not all the turmoil in which there's no identity. That doesn't mean anything. Lesson 4, these thoughts don't mean anything. Great. So remain silent in the midst of the turmoil they make. Don't believe them. Don't own them. Don't call them yours. Don't think you're thinking. It's nothingness. Just looking like something, but it's still nothing. Lesson 52. These thoughts, they do not exist and they mean nothing. They don't make a powerful contribution to the truth. They're nothing. They're meaningless. They're pointless. They represent a perspective that doesn't exist. They're nothing. So if you think your thoughts are something, you'll suffer. And it could be anything on the spectrum of low level dis-ease, dissatisfaction, antsiness. Could be anything from that to murderousness. Darkest depression. But it has one cause. You're lost to the noise, only apparently. All the time you're held hostage to this noise you think is you, but it's not. This noise you think is true, but it's not. This noise you think makes a powerful contribution to the truth, but it doesn't. It veils it. All the time, there is a piece you haven't lost that's shining in your mind. All the time, in every minute, this piece is available to you. In the midst of darkest grief, in the midst of worst anxiety, in the midst of crucifixion, there is a peace into which the world cannot intrude. But you're overlooking it to mix yourself with the ego's thoughts and call them yours. They're not yours. They are the thoughts of a self that is imagined to be here, but it's not here. If you go looking for thoughts in your mind, you'll find them. Go looking for the one who's thinking them. And there's no one there. So they don't belong to anyone. They don't mean anything. You're not thinking them. When you think you're thinking them, your mind is blank because you're not really thinking them, because you're the light of the world. But when you think you're thinking, when you overlook the period at the end of I am and imagine the I am that you are to be defiled by thought, I am this. It's illusion and it's pain and it's suffering. And there's no cure from here. All the seeking and the resisting and the fighting and the chasing and the grievances and the graspings and the running after moving goalposts and blaming everyone else for how miserable you are and your terror of death and sickness because you don't know who you are. And it's all because you're involved with the noise. That means nothing. That has nothing to do with you. You are the silence. You are the stillness into which the world cannot intrude. Not the world of bodies, not the world of thoughts, not the world of emotions. Nothing intrudes into it. And we get a formula. Course in Miracles comes in as a rescue mission going, listen, I know your suffering is appalling. I know nothing works. I know you're drowning in this hopelessness, this despair, this self-delusion that somehow it's all going to come together around the corner, and it never does. But actually, the problem's really simple. You don't know who you are. Course in Miracles says, I am a son of God. His son can suffer nothing, and I am his son. But if I get involved with thoughts, if I believe them, if I call them mine, if I'm deluded that I'm the one that's thinking them, even though I never know which thought is coming next, I have no control over them and I can't make them stop. I'm still deluded that these are my thoughts. How could they be? They don't belong to anyone. Because the ego is a thought system. It's not an entity. It's just thoughts. But there's no ego there to own them or claim them. And you're no ego. So we get our formula: forgiveness, the miracle. And that's how you return home to invulnerability, the peace the world can't intrude into, who you really are, the light of the world. That's what forgiveness is for. And when you come back here, the sin, guilt, and fear in the wrong mind must dissolve before the truth of who you are. But that's not the purpose of forgiveness. Forgiveness is get the hell out of thoughts. Get the hell out of thinking you're an ego, a suffering, miserable, crawling, grasping, separate self, desperate to try and fix its suffering and its lack and its need that never, ever, nothing works. Get the hell out of thoughts. Get the hell out of a thought identity. Salvation is nothing more than the escape from concepts. I am this is a concept. I am a body. I am a thinker. I am a separate self with a past and a future. I'm an innocent victim. I'm a good person in an evil world. Nonsense. You're not any of that. You're I am. Period. And the truth of who you are is forever protected by that period. I am. I am cannot be defiled by thought except from the perspective of delusion. I don't care what I am this, what painful, miserable, unhappy I am this you think you are. You are I am. It is impossible for you to be anything other than that. So the only problem you have is that you've mixed yourself up with the ego's thoughts. And you need a way out. You need a way for I am to awaken to itself from the delusion that it has become the abomination of an I am this, and can suffer and can lack. You can't suffer. You can't lack. It's not possible. But you can be deluded if you believe thoughts, if you identify with them, if you think they make a powerful contribution to the truth. I've been saying to all my private clients, if you want to accelerate this awakening thing, it's very simple. You just have to understand that thoughts are nothing. They're not you. That's it. If you can grasp that, awakening's around the corner. None of them are you. There's no identity in them. Again, they're not sinful, wicked, evil, bad, okay? They're just nothing. They're nothing. They're not yours. They're not you. There's no identity in them. They're just thoughts. So, but if you believe them or you think you're thinking them, you'll think yourself something that doesn't exist, something that can lack and need and want and be sick and die. Such a thing doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. You're already the light of the world. You are this stillness and silence into which the world cannot intrude. Now, the mistake everyone makes is, oh, I'm in the middle of suffering. I'm failing the course. What do I do? What's my forgiveness formula? How do I fix it? How do I make the bad stuff go away? And we go looking for a peace. We go looking for a stillness. And the fact that you are looking for stillness is activity. Looking for stillness is like protesting against protests. It's like shouting for silence. You have to find the stillness that's already here. Everyone's trying to make silence come, make peace come, make stillness come. It's already here. If you're trying to find it, if you're trying to make it happen, you're on the wrong track. You have to find what's already here. The peace you've never lost that's shining in your mind now. Not when you do a forgiveness formula, not when you're further up the ladder, not when the bad stuff goes away, not when your anxiety disorder is cured. It's here now. And it doesn't require the manipulation of states. So there's a state of anxiety. So there's a state of depression. So there's a state of fear. So there's a bliss state. All these states are shifting and changing all the time. None of them are you. Nothing that changes is you. You are what is witness to changes. That's who you are. That's the silence. That's the stillness, the emptiness to be found in the Holy Spirit, the I am. You are I am. Everything else is the mind's lies. I am can't be I am depressed. I am can't be I am anxious. I am can't be I am hurt. It can't be any of those things. Those are just thoughts, states, lies. None of those states or lies have any effect on the peace that's always here. And again, if you're trying to do things to find stillness and peace, that doesn't make any sense. That very activity is veiling the peace that's already here. So we're back to the flypaper. Oh, I'm so upset. I shouldn't be feeling like this. I'm a bad course student. Okay, what do I do? What's my forgiveness formula? How do I get rid of it? Does that sound like remaining quiet in the midst of the turmoil you make? Does that sound like being still and quietly doing nothing? Just looking and waiting and judging not? No, it's taking you further away from it. Everything you try to do takes you further away from the peace that's here no matter what. If you're trying to do anything, it's insane. Any movement of the mind is veiling a stillness that's here outside the mind. So Course in Miracles gives us a formula. Shouting and roaring in your head, adrenaline, hatred, self-loathing, rage, pain. And there's another way. Do nothing. Do nothing. So that's happening. Anything you try and do now is going to take you away from the truth of who you are. Because the forgiveness formula says, do nothing and find what's already here. And it calls it forgiveness. This doing nothing. To discover the stillness and the silence and the peace that's always here no matter what. So there's all this upset and the mind is racing. And what I do is I look. And the activity level from here, from where it looks, drops from 100% to 80%, to 60%, to 40%, to 20%, to 10%, to 5%. I'm doing nothing. The thoughts are racing, emotions, the sin, guilt, and fear is raucous shrieking, all the turmoil the wrong mind makes, and the 5% drops to 0%. Total non-resistance, total non-doing, total non-judgment, 100% surrender to what the wrong mind is doing. Whatever thoughts and feelings and sensations are doing, there is nothing here resisting it, fighting it, trying to fix it. No, no, no. We've gone to zero. We've gone to zero. The storm is raging and nothing is here to resist it. And now you know the peace the world cannot intrude into. It's here at 0% activity level. Thoughts are still thinking, emotions are still flying. Something is here, and there's no activity here. None. No attempt to do anything. No attempt to find anything. No attempt to call one emotion good and another emotion bad. Gone. There is nothing here resisting what is. And you will know yourself as the silence into which the world cannot intrude. Course in Miracles says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Let the world doing what it's doing. Script's written. What has it got to do with you? Let the thoughts that aren't you do whatever the hell they're doing. What has that got to do with you? Become defenseless against the world. Become defenseless against the insane voice talking to itself in your mind, pretending to be you. Become defenseless against the emotions. Let them be. Course in Miracles says, let all things be exactly as they are. You let the world be exactly what it is. You let the insane voice talking to itself that's not you be exactly what it is. You let the made up sin, guilt, and fear emotions be exactly as they are. You let all things be exactly as they are. That is 100% surrender. That is zero activity. Course in Miracles says, I need do nothing. You allow all things be exactly as they are. The peace is here the world can't touch. The peace is here that has nothing to do with thoughts and feelings. That is available here no matter what's happening with thoughts and feelings and states and situations. Here's the peace that never changes. Here's the changeless dwelling place. Here's the quiet center, the stately calm. And everyone thinks I get here by silencing the thoughts, by making the boo-boo go away with the feelings. No, you don't. No, you don't. You get back here, no matter what's going on with the world's thoughts and feelings. That's what you do. And when you're here, all the darkness gets dissolved. You don't get here by dissolving darkness. You don't get here by feeling better or like a holy ego. You don't get here by changing your thoughts. You don't get here by turning bad emotions into good emotions. There's no bad emotions and good emotions. There's just weather. The peace is the peace that's here in the midst of the turmoil you make, not when it goes away. That's the error. That's the mistake everyone makes. And when you come home to this stillness and silence that you are, in the midst of anxiety, in the midst of depression, in the midst of deluded English, innocent victimhood, in the midst of whatever state is the weather for today, is the peace that you are, is the peace of the Holy Spirit. And you make your stand here. And you allow everything else to be exactly what it is. You fight nothing. You change nothing. If you're trying to fix an imaginary separate self, that makes it real. Which preserves the painful misidentification, the false self, the cause of all suffering. When you come home here, thoughts really start to go down. But it doesn't mean there's not a state here of anxiety or depression or pain or hurt, self-hatred, self-loathing, shame. Doesn't mean that's not still here. Doesn't mean thoughts aren't jumping in every so often, but so what? That's not you. In this place where there is no activity, no fighting anything, no trying to fix anything, allowing all things to be exactly as they are, you discover the light of the world inside of you. It's got nothing to do with thoughts. It's got nothing to do with a person. And whatever storm is witnessed starts dissolving in front of the light. That's doing nothing. That's resisting nothing. Your forgiveness formula is that you die on the battlefield. You die on the battlefield. The world is launching a battle. Thoughts are launching a battle. Emotions are launching a battle. And you win by dying on the battlefield and resurrecting as the silence into which the world cannot intrude. The I am that cannot be defiled by a thought coming after the period. You die on the battleground and resurrect as stillness, as peace. And this peace then reveals itself as the substance of everything and everyone. But everyone's trying to do something. Everyone's trying to achieve something. Everyone's trying to fight something and make it better and search after something, to seek after something and resist the ego and seek salvation. That's delusion. You die on the battleground and get resurrected as peace. And that dissolves suffering. If you're trying to do something, you still think you're an ego. Egos can't do anything except suffer and blame. Do nothing. The world is happening, thoughts are happening, feelings are happening. What's my activity level about this? 100, 80, 60, 40, 20, 10, 5, 0. Death on the battleground. And the stillness that was always here is known. As whatever state rages as the weather of the day. And all is well. So that's the point I really wanted to get across today. Do nothing. Do nothing. Die on the battleground of the world and thoughts and feelings. Die. And know the peace that passeth all understanding. Why does it passeth all understanding? Because it doesn't matter what's happening in the world. Because it doesn't matter what's happening with thoughts. Because it doesn't matter if there's anxiety or depression or hatred or anger or shame. Whatever is here has no effect on the peace that's here, witness to it and touched by none of it. Nothing has to change. The minute I think I have to change something to know the peace that's already here, I'm deluded. I only have to forgive. To be still and quietly do nothing. To look, wait, and judge not. And I am awakens to itself from the nightmare that it's an I am this. Stillness awakens to itself from the delusion that it's mixed with noise. And is witness to the noise. It is witness to the thoughts and touched by none of it. That's what forgiveness is for. When you begin this, you'll find the peace. And the mind will project a meaning onto it. The mind will go, that's not it. Never believe the mind. Never believe your thoughts. The mind will go, that's not strong enough. That can't be it. Listen to me. I make a powerful contribution to the truth. No, no. You'll find the peace, the stillness that's here, and thoughts will talk you out of it. They'll say it's a bit grey, it's a bit neutral. It's nothing special. Angel Gabriel is not blowing his horn. You come back home here every time. Whatever weather is raging, at the level of form, at the level of thought, at the level of emotion, whatever the weather is, you come home here by doing nothing, judging nothing, fixing nothing, fighting nothing, with zero activity level. You keep coming home here, and the stillness will tell you of yourself. And the noise will all begin dissolving. And the stillness will keep revealing deeper and deeper levels of itself to you. An identity with thoughts begins to fall away all by itself. And you just do nothing. That's forgiveness. Stop trying to do something. Stop looking for something. Stop searching for something. Stop trying to accomplish something. Stop trying to awaken. Do nothing to find the awakeness that's already here. All seeking and resisting is of the ego. In the absence of seeking and resisting, there's no ego. There is the peace, the silence into which the world cannot intrude. You are that silence, and so is everyone. Okay, let's throw it open for some questions. So where should we go first, Linda?
Amanda, let me see if I can ask you to unmute. Okay.
Hi, kids.
Hi, Amanda.
Thank you very much for your explanation. They're very helpful to me. My question is about like body practices, let's say, because I used to be very obsessive about dieting and exercising and, beauty treatments. And all of that, like, kind of like felt away. I don't feel this need anymore, or I don't even have the necessity. But sometimes I have now I'm wondering how, because I remember you saying like you shouldn't neglect the body. But I get confused because I also have this chronic back pain that used to bother me a lot. And now I don't really care much at all. I feel the pain, but I don't have the motivation to look for treatments because I already did and nothing worked. So I'm in this space like, okay, uh, should I take care of my body or not care at all and just, keep practicing forgiveness and I will just know what's more helpful to do? Because a lot of things that I used to do to take care of my body felt away, but I don't know if at the same time I'm neglecting, or even like with therapies I used to do, like today there are so many healing modalities and a lot of them just lost their meaning. So, but I don't know if this is a state of me being even like a little bit depressed, like, oh, nothing matters because I'm not a body, so why should I care?
Okay,
You know what I mean?
there's a fundamental, important, crucial pointer we get from A Course in Miracles. The only thing you should ask of anything is, what is it for? Shakespeare said, nothing is right or wrong, but thinking makes it so. So that's why A Course in Miracles doesn't say, this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. It never says that. It talks about what you do with your mind. It never talks about action in the world. Because there's no such thing that's a good action and that's a bad action. That doesn't exist. That's judgment. So what you're saying in the past is that looking after the body and nutrition was obsessive. So all that meant was you had got involved with thoughts, thought you were lacking and not enough, and you were obsessive about trying to become something that was worthy because of how unworthy you were in your mind, because you believe thoughts. Do you understand?
Yes.
So when we are wrong-minded, which just means that you, who are I am, have got mixed up with thoughts and think yourself lacking, Okay. And now you're wrong-minded because you think you're something that doesn't exist. And now you're trying to medicate yourself, seeking for the best body, seeking to look after it the best way, seeking to have people think well about me because I hate myself, because egos hate themselves. There's no such thing as an ego. It's just I am has veiled its always identity from itself by identifying with the thoughts that mean nothing and don't exist. So anything I do from a place of lack and need, I'm trying to medicate myself as an ego, and it's seek and do not find. Doesn't matter how perfect the body is, I'll be upset about something. Doesn't matter how many people want me, the one that doesn't will break my heart. Okay? Nothing works because the ego doesn't want to be happy. The ego wants to be miserable. Because in the ego thought system, suffering is salvation, sacrifice is salvation. That's how I say, that's how the imaginary separate self saves itself from the imaginary vengeance of the god that was attacked and is coming back for its pound of flesh, is by sacrifice and suffering. So the unconscious motivation behind ego identity is suffer as much as possible, sabotage yourself, find ways to be in pain, because God won't think you look guilty. You're suffering too much to be the guilty one. He'll murder the ones that have been victimizing you. It's totally made up. It's not only a made up thought system, it's made up about a separate self that doesn't exist and a God that was attacked that doesn't exist because there's no such thing as separateness. So you're going to be wrong minded straight away when you're seeking or resisting for salvation, to feel better about yourself. That's magic. The problem is in the world. It's with my body, it's with my health, it's with the body's pains. That's where the problem is. My salvation is something that gets done in the world that will bring me the lasting happiness I want. And it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay.
So when
Do
I
I just
ask,
keep forgiving? And the answer is yes. You have one function. Forgiveness is my only function. Forgiveness is my only function. Why? Because that's the only thing that takes you out of madness, identification with thoughts that are not your real thoughts, that you're not really thinking and don't mean anything. The only thing that gets you out of that is forgiveness. That's the only thing that brings you home to the quiet center, to the stately calm, to the changeless dwelling place, which transcends pleasure and pain, but encompasses both. So that's why forgiveness is my only function. That's what I do. Now, from here, there's no I should do this with the body, I shouldn't do that with the body. There's none of that. From here, from the stillness, from the quiet center outside of thoughts, there is a knowingness that doesn't need thoughts. And it meets the requirements of the moment without having thoughts or planning or anything else like it, or wrecking your head or trying to make decisions. That's all gone. Now there's a knowingness here that meets the needs of the moment. Would this, because when you come home to the nothingness, to the stillness, to the emptiness, it is aware. It might be nothingness, but it's aware. And there is an intelligence here. There is a knowingness here. And from here, whatever appropriate, balanced, loving, helpful action is required, it comes naturally from here. That's why forgiveness is my only function. I come back here, out the hell out of thought identification, home to the stillness. And from here, where I know I need nothing, effortless action and knowingness just expresses itself in the moment. But it's not so I can be peaceful. Peace is already here. A wrong-minded decision is an attempt to find peace, to make peace, to get peace, which will never work. Okay, but a right-minded decision, that comes from peace that's already here. From here, it doesn't matter if the body is big or small or healthy or unhealthy or liked or disliked. From here, that's irrelevant. Peace is already here in the stillness. And from this stillness where nothing is required, appropriate, loving action that serves the whole comes naturally. But there is no investment in what's getting done for happiness. But does that mean I would go, oh, to hell with the body? No, that's not intelligence. That doesn't come from knowingness. But whatever is the balanced, useful, helpful thing to do happens naturally. It's not going to be neglecting anything. It's not going to be neglecting bodies. It's not going to be neglecting people. It's not going to be neglecting yourself. No, it's going to be the wisdom of spirit expressing itself through you. And it'll be balanced. So if there's something to do for the body's health, it's not going to be obsessive. It's not going to be so people like you. It's not going to be so the body looks good and you can hate yourself less as an ego. It's not any of those things. Peace is already here. And now appropriate action takes place and there's no investment in it. But if you're looking for anything, if you're seeking for something, if you're trying to fix yourself, that's wrong-minded. The silence isn't broken. The stillness isn't broken. The world has, I put a quote up during the week, which complements today's course quotes, where Meister Eckhart said, there's a place in your soul that's never been wounded. Go there through total forgiveness and surrender to the present moment. And all is well. And whatever appropriate action needs to take place, takes place effortlessly from there. That's what A Course in Miracles is teaching. You use forgiveness to discover the place in you that has never been broken. But you will never get here through seeking or resisting or striving or trying to do something or achieve something. That will veil from you what is here, that has never been defiled, that is outside of pleasure and pain, that's outside of good and bad, right and wrong. So forgiveness brings me home here, and the practicing of forgiveness deepens the realization of this stillness.
So when you are in your right mind, and I ask, what is it for? What is the answer then? So I can know if I'm in the right or wrong mind. Like I know in the wrong mind if I ask this question and, it's to feel better, have a better
is it
body.
To become something or fight against something? Okay, then the purpose is no good. Doesn't matter what the action is. The action can be good or bad depending on the purpose. But if your purpose is that I become something or I fight against something, if that's your purpose, well then that's hurting you. But if its purpose is forgiveness, I'll do nothing. I look with no judgment and come home to the quiet center. That's all anything is for. That's what the whole world is for. It doesn't matter what's happening. It has one purpose: for you to come home to the quiet center, to the emptiness that's aware, and know it as who you are. So the world is, just because the Holy Spirit is using the ego's script, the ego's script is now the mechanism by which you remember the truth of who you are. That's no ego. And you do that by forgiveness, by allowing the world to be what it is, by allowing sin, guilt, and fear to come up in your mind, which would have been projected onto the world that means nothing, and go, the world did it to me. No, it didn't. There's nothing in the world. And if there's nothing in the world, whatever's in your mind, that's already there. The world is showing it to you, and now you do nothing. Total absence of doing. In that surrender, in that death on the battleground, you discover what you are as the space in the room within which thoughts, feelings, sensations arise and dissolve. And the space is inviolable. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Keith.
Amanda.
Thank you very much.
Where should we go next, Linda?
Lana, let
Lana,
me.
you're up. So you'll get
Hi.
here you are.
Hi, Linda. Hi, Keith.
Uh,
Hi, everybody. Keith, I have a question. Okay, if I am totally enmeshed with this thought system, which is not me, I'm enmeshed with the I am that thought system, and I'm totally enmeshed with my body like I think it's me. That is my forgiveness opportunity, isn't it? To realize I'm delusional, to realize that this is a delusion and it's not true, right?
Yeah, but when you say I am enmeshed in the thought system, what is that?
Well, it means like I can't stop thinking
What
about my
is that?
so-called
So
problems.
in inverted commas, I am enmeshed in the thought system, in inverted commas. What is this?
Um, I don't know.
It's a thought.
It's a thought.
Is that thought you? Did you actually sit
No,
there and go, I think I'll think that thought?
no,
Okay, so the thought just happened by itself.
yes.
Okay, are you the thought or the one who was here before the thought arose and that will be here after the thought dissolves?
I'm the one before the thought, and then I'll be here after the thought.
Okay, so is the thought you or are you the one who hears it happening by itself?
I hear the thought happening by itself.
The one who hears thought happening all by itself is this one enmeshed in thought.
No, not really.
So A Course in Miracles says you have no problems, but you think you do. See, you just believed a thought. I am enmeshed in thought. But all you have to do, like lesson 70 says, is you have to go through the clouds to get to the light beyond. You have to go, that's a thought. I thought that. I thought I was the one who thought that. I thought it applied to me, that it had something to do with my reality, but actually it's just a thought. It doesn't exist and it means nothing. I don't fight it.
Okay,
I don't judge it.
okay,
I don't do anything with it. I look at it and go, that's just a thought. But what does that have to do with the one who hears it?
okay. So thoughts like I'll never get this,
Okay,
or
so there's another thought. Did you sit there going, I think I'll torture myself with the thought that I'll never get this? Did you do that?
no.
Okay, so the thought, I'll never get this, that just happened all by itself. Isn't that so?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Now, is that thought you? Or are you the one who was here before that thought arose all by itself, and that will be here even after it disintegrates and dissolves?
I'll still be here when the thought dissolves.
So is that thought, I'll never get this, is that you? Or are you the one who hears the thought?
I hear the thought.
Is there anything to get for the one who hears all thoughts, but is untouched by them?
No, there's nothing to get. If you're in that, no,
Well, yeah. Now, is there someone in that silence that hears all noise but is untouched by it? Is there someone in that silence, or is there only the silence?
is there someone in that silence?
Or is there only silence itself?
Now
You,
that I don't know.
well, you who hear all thoughts but are touched by none of them, are you in the silence or are you silence?
I guess it would be the truth is I am the silence.
Yeah. And even that I am the silence is a thought, okay? And the thought isn't the actual experience, but you are the silence within which not even the words I am the silence are here in the silence. There's just silence. That's who you are. Everything else is thoughts arriving by themselves and you getting lost, apparently losing your identity to them because you think you're thinking them. You're not. You're not thinking thoughts. You are the space. You are the room within which thoughts come in like the weather and dissolve. And it has no effect on the space in the room.
Okay, so even the identification with this body is just another thought, right?
Just a thought. So I am a body. That's a thought. Is that thought you, or are you the one who hears the thought?
I'm the one that hears it.
The one that hears the thought. Is it a body?
No.
No. See, there's no such thing as a problem because the one that has the problem never exists. And this looking without judgment is the way home to the emptiness, the nothingness that is aware, that knows without thought. We get ourselves into trouble. Course in Miracles says, I do not know what anything is for. Now, all the problem comes when I identify with the mind that says, I know what everything is for. I know what A Course in Miracles is for. I know I'm failing the course. I know other people are better than me. I know I'll never get it. The Course in Miracles says, thoughts don't know anything. Don't believe them. Do not believe a single thought. Do not
Yeah.
delude yourself that you're thinking it. It has nothing to do with your reality. Lesson 70 says you must go through the clouds to get to the light. That just means you go, that's just a thought. Does that have anything to do with the one who hears the thought? And every single time you'll answer no. There are no problems because there's no one there to have a problem.
Yeah, I see.
Does that make
Well,
sense?
I mean, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, Kate Greaves calls it like a plate of hors d'oeuvres that are rotten,
Mm-hmm.
that somebody tries to serve you a plate. The ego tries to serve you a plate of rotten hors d'oeuvres,
Mm-hmm.
and you have every right to say, no, thanks.
Yeah.
I don't want the rotten hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah. But really, we're saying just say no thanks to every thought. Every thought seeks to rob I am of its identity and turn it into an I am this. You are not an I am this, you are I am. Reject every single thought. The good
Yeah.
ones and the bad ones.
Yeah.
Lesson 4 says the good ones are but shadows of what lie beyond, outside of thoughts, and make sight difficult. The bad ones make sight impossible.
Yeah.
You do not want either. You are
No,
I.
I don't.
You are not I am a good ego. You're not I am a holy ego. You are I am. You transcend holy and unholy. You transcend pleasure and pain. You transcend good and bad. That's the truth. And yet what you are encompasses all of it. So yeah, there's no problem. Just everything is a believed thought. Undo that. There isn't a problem.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Lana. Where should we go next,
Thank
Lindsay?
you.
Marcia, let me.
Go ahead, Marcia.
Okay. Unmute.
Hi. So, following on the heels of this discussion with Darlana and Amanda, and I am, well, okay, I'm about to jump out of my skin. I think I'm dying on the battlefield right now. Where'd you go? Where are you? Oh, there you are. I know what you're doing. You're closing the curtain because
Curtain
the
closed. Go
sun.
ahead, Marcia.
I know you're closing the curtain because of the sun. I turned around and I said, "Where'd you go?" Anyway, I'm dying on the battlefield of my thoughts. I'm gonna I'll try to make it simple. I'm gonna rehash an old problem within the dream. We need do nothing. But we deny the denial of truth. And like you're saying, all thoughts are the denial of truth. Okay, it's all beautiful, it's all simple, but when you find yourself within the realm of the ego, and you also want to forgive what it is you've been thinking, doing, whatever, you say not to try. My quote unquote problem is that in my script, I am an alcoholic. That's not who I am. But I had to stop doing that because I was hurting myself and my husband. It wasn't like I was in the dying on the curb or anything like that. But it was just, there's no order of difficulty in miracles. So my right mind said, you've got to quit this because it's not good for you. I asked Ken Wapnick one time, I said, because this is an ongoing theme with this so-called Marcia, who I understand that's not my real self, but I'm experiencing Marcia as someone who still has this disease that wants to cover over all the pain and suffering with alcohol. And I know that if I do that, I certainly can choose to do that. I don't want to do it, but it's always there in my mind. It's like, gosh, I could just go out and get a bottle of wine today and I'd feel better. Now, I know everything you've said. Oh, if I could just lose weight or if I could just have a Mercedes, within the realm of I'll be happy when. I guess what I'm trying to ask you is there is something that we need to do within the dream if we're hurting ourselves or someone else. There's no difference between hurting someone with drinking or slapping someone in the face because they're all the same. But what is in my script is that I'm trying to cover over the love of God with this addiction. And with addiction, for any of us here who has it, knows that it can be an overwhelming thought. And I understand thoughts aren't real. And I did quit a year ago. I've been sober now for over a year, which I'm very glad about. But this is in the dream, Keith. I mean, what's the difference then about, for me being sober or not sober? You need to do nothing. I'm dying on the battlefield. I was reading Jack Kerouac. He was a terrible alcoholic. And he did die a horrible death on the battlefield. That's not my goal is to just continue to be silent and be in my right mind. And I'll just end with this. I wanted you to expound on something you said yesterday in one of your posts, which was an aha. While we're on, please, I'm paraphrasing it terribly. While we're trying to get there, we're still there while we're trying to get there. What was that?
Okay, but it's the same thing as we're saying today. Now, first of all, when you say I'm an alcoholic and I do need to do this and I'm doing this and I'm trying to do this, and then there is this situation, the ego analyzing and analyzes.
Mhm.
All right, so all that's ego.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
what does the Holy Spirit do? The ego analyzes, the Holy Spirit accepts.
Okay, I can accept it. Sure,
Yeah.
I do. And I
So,
forgive it.
so that's the first thing. The second thing is this is from chapter 4, section 4, paragraph 2. I have said that you cannot change your mind by changing your behavior.
Right.
I have also said, and many times, that you can change your mind. So, honestly, whether you stay drinking or you become sober hasn't got anything to do with whether you awaken. You're saying, well, for me, the body, if I'm drinking or I'm not drinking, Course in Miracles doesn't care about your body. Course in
I
Miracles doesn't care
know.
about what's happening. Course in Miracles is a rescue mission that says, listen, the only thing that will bring you happiness is awakening to the truth of who you are. Okay. That's why, if you have, a health problem and you go to the doctor and the doctor makes the health problem better, well, you'd want to be insane if you didn't go. That's the first thing.
Sure. Of
Okay. If you have a
course.
drinking problem and you're not stopping, that's insane. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
So
All
that's
right. That's
magic.
insane. Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's magic, right? That's magic. Great. Magic is what happens in the dream. Go and do the magic, but it won't awaken you.
No, of course not.
Okay, so
No.
you see, if there is, if there's a problem with health, if there's a problem with alcoholism, if there's a problem with drugs, if there's a problem with anything, then, the normal thing that happens in the dream is that you go and you get help with it, and, the magic
Mhm.
might make you feel better, but it won't awaken you.
But stopping will help me to become awake, right?
No,
I
that's
mean,
magic. No,
can you be, well, if you're a drunk, can you suddenly become enlightened?
no.
No,
But if you're sober, can you suddenly become enlightened? No. Only for
no.
only separating yourself out from thoughts. That's all that's going to awaken. You're already awake, except that you're mixed with
Yes,
thoughts. So listen, I was an alcoholic. In this present moment, is that anything other than a story?
right.
Is it, but what is it? I was an alcoholic. But what do we call that? It's a thought.
And it's the past.
Yeah. And is
And the
and
past can touch me not.
exactly. So you see, let it go.
I'm trying.
Well,
I'm trying to
all you're
let
saying is
go.
that in this moment, I still have discomfort, even though I'm not.
Yes, yes,
That's what you're saying.
yes,
You're saying there's still pain here, even though I'm not drinking.
yes.
Yeah. So die on the battleground. Go
Okay.
and see your thoughts.
Well, I already am, so I guess I'll
No,
just
but
keep
but
on
no,
dying
you
in the
know,
battleground.
no, no, no. Um, keep your thoughts the hell away from them. You go deeply into that dis-ease that's here, which is sin, guilt, and fear.
I know, and I know. I'm such a know-it-all. I know
Yeah,
this.
but let it go and don't know anything.
It's so hard.
That's a thought. You're just believing the thought, Marcia. That thought, it's so hard. Is that thought you, or are you the one who hears
No,
the thought?
no, no. It's the struggler. It's the ego
Yeah,
that
but
doesn't want me
can you
to.
find the struggler? Have a look there and see. There's a struggle there. Can you find the one who's struggling?
Yeah,
Okay, what do you find?
nothing. There's nobody there. It feels like it. It's not real though. The struggle isn't real.
No, because
What? How am I?
there's
What point am I missing?
only suffering, but there's no such thing as an ego to suffer.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
No,
don't mean to make.
yeah,
Okay.
but you see, see, you're getting upset about it. You're getting upset.
Hmm.
Struggle is here. You're going, this is bad. It shouldn't be here. Does that sound like forgiveness?
No, it does not.
So you see, you're saying, well, how is forgiveness going to help me? But you're not actually doing forgiveness. Let go. Let go into the
Okay.
pain. Let the pain break you wide open and do nothing.
Well, I do that, and it is happening, but then I kind of go back
Yeah,
to,
but
oh my
don't let your
God, this
thoughts
is
near it. Don't let your thoughts near it. All your thoughts are defending against it. They're going, this is because you were an alcoholic. This is because you're not drinking and you still want to drink, but you can't have a drink and that'll make you a bad course student. And you're a bad course student because you still want it. That's all. They're just thoughts. That's not you. You die. Give up the battle with the thoughts. Give up the battle with the past. Give up the battle with the pain. Let the pain overtake you. Go deeply into it. Feel every
well,
last bit of it with no resistance to it. And the
I
pain
do
can't
that.
stand.
I do that. I
Okay,
do
but there's
that.
still judging going on. So if you've brought
Yes.
down your activity level to like 60%, great. Get it down to zero, Marcia.
Okay.
Do nothing to discover, complete. in my defenselessness, my safety
My
line.
safety
You're still
lines.
defending. You're going, oh, it's because of this and it's because of that, and I know this and I know that, and blah. Let it all go. Be present with the pain. Go deeply into it without judging it and keeping thoughts the hell away from it. And the pain can't stand, Marcia, and you cannot but awaken to the truth of who you are, who needs do nothing.
And I love that. I love it. I
So don't
love
think
that.
about it. Don't think about it. Don't believe your thoughts. Just let go.
My thoughts, my head.
Yeah, but just don't believe them. Just lesson 70. You have to go through the clouds to get to the light. You know,
I
my
know.
head is exploding. And then I have to go, oh, I thought that. That's a thought. That's just a thought. That has nothing
I
to do with
know.
the one who hears it. Come home to the
Okay.
one who hears it. And another thought will come in to try and drag I am into another painful
Mm.
misidentification. And then you go, I thought I was thinking. This is a thought.
Yeah,
Who's
I
the
thought
one
I
that
was
hears
thinking.
thoughts? Keep coming
And
home
it's a
to
building and building and build. Well, I
that.
once, when I had really bad panic attacks, and I went to the doctor, and I said, "Well, how come I have them, and say my brother or my husband doesn't?" He said, "Well, some people have this up here that gets them panicky, and other people they can take whatever down here. So when you're telling me to just lower it, I'm still thinking,
You are still thinking. You have to just
oh,
catch
darn
these and
it."
go, these are just thoughts. They don't make a powerful contribution to the truth. They're not my thoughts. They don't
Right,
talk to anyone.
right.
Nothing. Again, you're going to put yourself on the fast track if you can just get it into your head that thoughts mean nothing.
Thoughts mean nothing. And see, that's we can know all this, but then when the
Well, you just have to,
rubber,
again, lesson 70 says, remember, you will have to go through the clouds to get to the light. So you have to notice that you're identified with thoughts and you need to go, these are just thoughts. So again, surrender to thoughts, surrender to
okay.
feelings, surrender to the world, and feel the strength that's here that's touched by none of it. But you'll only feel that by death on the battleground. The
And
whole ego
sometimes I do.
warrior will never know peace.
Right, right, right. So we can experience that here as, you know, this so-called person. When we surrender, we can feel that. But then we go, I know we ping pong.
Yeah,
I-
but you see, no, listen, you have a right mind that is simply peace, emptiness, stillness itself, that is touched by nothing it witnesses. Okay. You
Right,
have that inside of you. Okay. There's
right,
another half of your mind that's insane.
right,
But so instead of staying in the insane mind and
right.
asking the insane thoughts, how do I get myself out of this? So your problem is you're identified with thoughts. Then you go, let me ask my thoughts how I get myself out of this problem. And thoughts go, oh, I'm glad you asked. We're going to recommend more thoughts. All
Yeah,
right. We're going to throw
right.
holy thoughts in on top of the unholy thoughts. We're going to go and ask someone else for their thoughts. We're going to throw all the thoughts in on top of each other. And of course, Miracles is going, would you stop?
Okay, okay.
Do nothing.
Yeah,
Witness
yeah,
that mess
right.
without any thoughts about it. And
Okay.
what's here? And a thought will come in and you'll go, oh, I don't know about that. And then you have to catch that and go, that's a thought. That's not me. Who hears the thought?
Mm.
You come home to the stillness gently each time through forgiveness, not fighting thoughts, not being angry with yourself.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
forgive them.
yeah.
Everything you forgive, it can no longer rob you of your identity. Whatever you do not forgive will keep your identity from you. You become every unforgiven belief. I am seems to become an I am this, an abomination, but it doesn't. So you catch the clouds. You go, that's just another thought. Who hears thoughts? Who's here before every thought? Who's here when they fall away? You keep coming home to this. That's the practice. That's forgiveness. You are what looks with no judgment. You are not anything you look on. There's no identity in anything you look on, even though it's made out of you.
So when I surrender, I feel like I'm giving up,
The ego does.
but yeah, okay, but then letting go is different from giving up. Letting go
But call it whatever you're comfortable with,
is being
because they're only
peaceful.
thoughts. Ultimately, what I'm saying is
Yeah,
come home to the peace that
right.
does nothing
Okay.
and can be touched by nothing.
Okay.
So
I
call it
do
whatever way you
understand.
want. Ultimately, when we talk about surrender, when we're not talking about an activity that you do, it's a cessation
No.
of doing. It's a
Yeah.
cessation of doing, and it brings you
Hmm.
home to the truth of who you are. That is always surrendered, wide open awareness. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about becoming a surrendered aware. You are surrendered awareness, but you don't know it. The
And
cessation
that's what,
of doing brings you home to the non-doing, wide open, non-resisting field of awareness that you always are. So it's not a
that's
doing,
what,
it's
I'm sorry.
cessation of doing.
That's what you said in your post. I can't remember which one it was, but it was yesterday. While we're on the journey, we already are. What?
Your
It was a
right mind is already the light of the world. Your wrong mind is a delusion. It doesn't exist. It's
yeah.
just identification with thoughts. Okay. So
Okay.
even as there is identification with thoughts, the right mind shines as peace in the background. All I have
Okay.
to do is not
Yeah.
fight thoughts, not
Yeah.
fight emotions, not fight. All I have to do is surrender, and there is a peace here with whatever weather that's going on.
The
Even I'm
weather.
having a hard time, and the alcoholism is difficult, and I'm having, yeah, but you can be totally peaceful with this if you surrender to it. You can be the peace of the room within which this weather is seen. It's like I said to you, have a listen back to today's podcast. I said the peace is available in the midst of really wanting a drink and being in pain. It's not about you getting rid of the weather.
Yeah.
It's about your forgiveness of the weather. Brings you home
Right.
to the peace that's here in the midst of pain.
Yes.
And
Yes.
only this peace in the midst of pain has the ability to begin dissolving the pain.
Yeah.
But you can only get here by total forgiveness, not by doing.
Okay.
Thanks, Marcia.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so um, Linda,
Linka.
we have Lenka and Jeremiah. Is that it? So will we draw a line under that?
Sure. I mean, there's some questions in the
We're
chat box.
running on with time. It's 25
Okay.
past 6, and we have so let's just do Lenka and Jeremiah. So Lenka, yeah.
Hello, please.
Hi there.
So, my question is, so the peace that passes all understanding is always there.
Yeah. It's always here through total surrender to what is, by letting all things be exactly as they are, by giving up the fight. Something is here that was here all the time, and it is peace. It is stillness. It is the silence into which the world cannot intrude. It is who you are. Was there a question? You'll need to unmute yourself again. Linda, you might need to invite Lenka to unmute herself again, do you?
Thank you. So I cannot be in that peace just a little bit. I am either fully in peace or I am not in the peace. And
Nobody
this
can
is
be
the mind training.
nobody can be in that peace. There's just peace. You are peace. You are emptiness. You are stillness. You are the silence into which the world cannot intrude. That's who you are. If you're mixed up with thoughts, then you have one function, which is to use forgiveness to undo identification with all those thoughts and get home to the stillness, to the holy instant. But the holy instant is now. It's now. And has it ever been any other time apart from now? except in thoughts. Thoughts are like, oh, look what happened 10 minutes ago. Look what might happen in 2 years' time. Look what's happened when I was 5. Look what that. Okay, that's got nothing to do with now. So now, where there's no past or future, there's no problem. There's only stillness here in the now. There's only I am. There cannot be I am sad. I am an innocent victim. Okay, because there's just now. There's just I am. The mind, what we call the mind, is always the past. There's nothing to the mind other than past, but it's got nothing to do with now. It has nothing to do with the I am that you are. The I am that you are is always peaceful, always still. Everything else is thoughts.
So I am not even choosing that peace, just being that silence and stillness. I am at that peace. If I'm choosing that peace, I'm doing and I'm missing the point still.
Yeah, but how could you choose to be what you already are? What you have to do is disentangle yourself from your ideas of what you are and come home to what you already are. If you're trying to become what you already are, you're keeping a misidentification and trying to fix it.
So it's meant completely literally, I need to do nothing. I do nothing and then I am.
Yes. The
Period.
miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant and is still, because stillness awakens to itself from its identification with noise. The miracle comes quietly into the mind that stops an instant. Not the mind trying to become a holy mind and trying to become a holy ego and become this, that, and the other. That's not where the miracle doesn't come near a mind like that. It comes to a mind that stops an instant and is still. No activity level. Bring it down to 0. Die on the battleground of the world thoughts and emotions. And what's here is the peace and stillness the world can't touch. But it's only to be found in total surrender, total forgiveness, doing nothing. Doing nothing. Forgiveness is surrender. Surrender to the ego's world of form and thoughts and feel. Total surrender. Let it be what it is. And what's revealed is what was here all along. Total peace. But that doesn't mean there's no ego drama. It doesn't mean there's no depression to be seen today. Whatever sin, guilt, and fear is coming up to be seen, that doesn't mean there's not something here that's totally peaceful with the anxiety or the depression or the shame or the self-loathing. There's a peacefulness here that is untouched by the weather. And it sees the weather without resisting it or trying to do anything with it. And the weather dissolves in this peace.
And would you please share when you were at the beginning of your journey with this course and with this silence and stillness and peace? Did you surely forgot in the meantime that it is there, right? Did you remind yourself to go back to it, or
Yeah, but
as
that's why this is a course in miracles, not a course in the miracle or a miracle. You're going to keep going back into thoughts as though they're true, as though they say something important, as though they shape your identity, as though they say something about your reality. You're going to get mixed up in there and completely misperceive yourself as something that you're not, and your suffering will be exquisite. When you notice the suffering, use forgiveness to get the hell out of thoughts. Come home to the stillness and silence of the holy instant. How? Total forgiveness. Whatever the world is doing, surrender to it. Whatever the thoughts are doing, surrender to them. Whatever the feelings are doing, surrender to them. Peace is here no matter what the ego is doing. If there's no judgment, if there's no doing, peace is here regardless of what's going on. But everyone's, because you see, the whole activity of the ego is seeking and resisting to solve the problem of itself. You see? So if your forgiveness formula is let me seek something and do something to solve the problem of myself and my suffering, that's ego. So any seeking you do, any resisting you do, that's not forgiveness. That won't bring you back to peace. That's magic. You want a miracle. If you want a miracle, it comes quietly into the mind that stops seeking and resisting, that dies on the battleground of thoughts and feelings and the world and resurrects as the emptiness that's dancing as the entire world. Your crucified separate self-identity made out of thoughts, that dies and you resurrect as your brother, as everything and everyone, as the stillness and silence that's appearing as all the world and touched by none of it. That's what the holy instant is. That's what the real world is. But you find this in emptiness, in stillness, in non-resistance, in non-doing, in non-judgment. There is the miracle of who you truly are that has never been touched or limited by a single thought. It's so simple, it's so difficult for us to grasp. Because literally, A Course in Miracles is saying, stop doing, stop seeking and resisting. Just fall still, no matter what thoughts and feelings and world is doing. Just stop still and just give it all permission to be what it is. And what's here granting that permission is silent, aware, emptiness and stillness, the light of the world. You can only get back here through total surrender. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
So we keep needing miracles. You're going to need hundreds of miracles a day because you'll keep thinking you're thinking. And you need a way to get the hell out of thoughts. Because thoughts can't get you out of thoughts. Only forgiveness can free you, I am, from thoughts that would seem to miscreate you as an I am list. You are never anything but I am. Forgiveness brings I am home to itself from the delusion of mistaken identity. So thanks a million for that, Lenka. So let's go to Jeremiah Johnson.
Oh, hey Keith.
Hi.
I'm feeling a little nervous and fearful, so I wrote down my questions. Just
Well,
gonna
don't fight it. Do nothing about it. Go ahead.
I'll let the thought go. I thought I met my soulmate and he just broke up with me. I never felt so intertwined with someone's soul, and it's unexplainable. Sort of like the label of twin flame. I'm hanging on to all the words he used. Like he would never leave me, and our relationship is the deepest one possible. I don't want to focus on plant medicine, but it showed me that he was going to be the father of my children and that we have lived every life together.
You've just become muted again. So Linda, will you invite just to...
Oh.
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
Did you hear about the plant medicine? Oh, I'll start there. I don't want to focus on plant medicine, but it showed me that he was going to be the father of my children and that we've lived every life together. It showed me a few things that also happened in our future, which was wild. These experiences made the relationship even more convincing. It's extremely challenging to let go and trust because he brought up every grievance from what seems my entire life up, and I brought it up all of his in a very short time. So it seems like we brought each other really close to God very quickly with all the darkness that was coming up in our relationship for us to see. He triggered me with everything, and I've never forgiven anyone so much like I've forgiven him, almost overstepping myself. I know I'm supposed to watch my thoughts, sensations, feelings dissolve, and I've been doing this for a few months now, and not much is changing. I just feel like there's such a deep attachment. And I just want to know if you have any advice on how to fall just more into the trust of God, because I know that's what this is ultimately probably teaching me. It's the hardest thing to let go of.
Let me read you a story. Once, two men came to Krishna to get blessing. Oops, is that the one I wanted to do? Yeah, let's do this one. It's a few versions of this. Once two men came to Krishna to get a blessing, one of them poor and the second rich. The rich man asked Krishna to give him more wealth. Krishna blessed him, telling him that he would soon get the wish. The poor man, who all of his possessions had got only a hut, nearly falling to pieces, asked Krishna for some money so he could repair it. But Krishna told him to stop worrying about this. His hut will soon burn down. In the same way, there's a story of Krishna and Arjuna dressing up as poor people, and they look for food and lodgings with a rich man, and he gives them a few scraps and sends them out to the cowshed. And the next day, Krishna turns back and blesses the farm with fertility and bounty. And then the next night they stay with a poor farmer, and he gives them, he has nothing, but he divides in three the little that he does have and gives them his bed. And the next morning, and all he has is this tiny little plot of land and a cow. And when Krishna and Arjuna are leaving the next day, Krishna turns around and kills the cow. And Arjuna, as we all would, said, what the hell? Your purpose is to awaken to the truth of who you are. I did a talk during the week with Anna about spiritual teaching, and the right way and the wrong way to go about that. If I am seeing my sense of identity as an ego bound in my marriage, the kindest thing that can be done for me will be the end of the marriage. Because my one focus is discovering the truth of who I am. If I make a new concept of a self as a spiritual teacher, the kindest thing that can happen for me would be some sex scandal from my past to get me cancelled. And Lord knows there's a few. Okay. Okay. You have to. This is about unpicking all the threads of identity, all the ways you're trying to medicate your brokenness as an ego by seeking and grasping and holding on to and cannibalizing people because you hate yourself. But if someone just loves you and tells you the right things, you don't have to look at that hatred, and life is more manageable as an ego. That's hell.
Yeah.
You want to find the silence in you that needs nothing from the world and that the world can't intrude on. You're here to awaken, not to be a happy little ego in a world where you've thrown God's love and oneness back in his face, but you're going, na, 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 I made it work. Ha! I'm very happy as an ego. Thanks very much, God. Stick your oneness. Well, first of all, that's not going to happen. Egos can't be happy. They can't be happy. And so even, When you were in the relationship, there were many times you thought, I could do better than this fella. This is not what it should be. I'm not happy in this relationship, right? So, but now you're pretending to yourself, lying to yourself, going, oh, my unhappiness is because I'm not in the relationship. No, you were miserable in the relationship because you think you're an ego. And now you're not in a relationship, you're miserable. Your misery has nothing to do with the relationship. It has to do with the fact that you don't know who you are. So the kindest thing that can happen to us, that's why, what could you not accept if you but knew that all things, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good. Not your good to be a happy ego. There's no such thing as a happy ego. Egos, egos are single egos want to be in relationships. Egos in relationships want to be single. Egos say, oh my God, if I just got my health back, I would be so happy. But they were miserable until they got sick. And if they get their health back, they'll still be miserable. Now they'll just be going, oh, if the relationship was only better, oh, if the money was on. You can't be an ego and be happy. It's not possible. It's a contradiction in terms. Because the whole ego thought system says, I will save myself by my misery. I will save myself by my suffering. If I can just suffer enough, God won't murder me. But there's no such thing as an ego. And there's no such thing as a murderous God. The whole thing's made up. Okay, you're the light of the world. But you don't know that. And so you're suffering. You're mixed up with thoughts. You don't know your I am. You think I am jilted. I am wronged. I am upset. Okay? No, you're not. No, you're not. You're I am. And the only reason you are miserable is because you don't know who you are. You think you're something that doesn't exist. And the answer is total surrender. You see, it's all very well for you to go, oh, I'm looking at my thoughts and it's not really getting me anywhere. Where's the forgiveness? Where is surrender? Okay, all things are working together for good. So you don't get to judge the world. You don't get to judge what happened with your boyfriend. That's already working together for good, which is for you to discover eternal happiness. Okay, so you don't get to judge it. But there's an insane voice in your head going, I'm going to judge it. I don't care. That's not you. Those are thoughts. Are those thoughts you, or are you the one who hears them?
No, I'm the one that hears them.
And the one who hears those thoughts, is there any lack or want or need here?
No.
See, you have no problems, but you think you do. So your misery is caused by overlooking the okayness that's already here and mixing yourself with thoughts. And the pain is excruciating. And then what you do is you blame the relationship you're in for how miserable you are, or you blame the relationship you're not in for how miserable you are. But your misery has nothing to do with the relationship. Just like if the body's being crucified, that has nothing to do with your misery. Your misery is only ever to do with whether you are here in and as the silence the world cannot intrude into, or whether you're mixed up with thoughts. That's the only thing that causes misery. So all suffering comes from resistance. You know, even when we have pain of a physical nature, that cannot cause suffering. Only the insistence it should not be thus creates suffering. So relationship breakup cannot cause us anything. Okay, there's no cause in the world. There's not even cause and effect in the world. It's purely an effect. It has no power over you whatsoever. Only your grievance with all things working together for good. And there are no exceptions except in the ego's judgment. All things work together for good. There are no exceptions except in the ego's judgment. So the only thing causing your pain is arguing with what is, which already is, number one. And number two is already exactly what you need. So your cow got killed. And that was Krishna's answer to Arjuna. You know, the rich man had belongings, but there was no attachment to it. He could have lost them all in the morning and it would have nothing to do with his happiness. But the poor man who was so generous, his attachment to that one last cow was keeping him from the peace of God, from his awakening. So from the ego's perspective, this is victimhood. From the point of view of my good, if my attachment to money is keeping me from the peace of God, the kindest thing that can happen is that it be taken from me. If my attachment to my home is keeping me from the peace of God, the kindest thing that can happen is that I lose it. My attachment to my relationship, my seeking of myself in it, instead of in the stillness, if that's keeping me from the peace of God, the kindest thing that can happen is for it to end. If my career, if that's where all my investment in and my whole sense of false identity is built up, then the kindest thing that can happen is that I lose it. And then all the sin, guilt, and fear comes up. Great. That's the purpose. Sit with this, with no judgment of it, and without the thoughts that the world did it to me. The world can't do anything to you. Only what you're doing with your mind causes misery or peace. Resistance and grievances causes misery, and forgiveness, total surrender, brings a peace nothing can touch. So does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And listen,
I
it's an awful pain. I've been there. I know what it's like. So I'm not dismissing this, okay? But I am saying all things are working together for good. There are no exceptions except in the ego's judgment. Everything that happens is now 100% exactly what you need to remember God, to remember who you are and what God is, to find the peace that passes all understanding. And you will come home to that true forgiveness.
Thank you. I feel like I can breathe.
Good. Okay, we're going to leave it at that because we're already up way past our time as usual. Guys, thanks a million for your attention. I hope you got something good out of today. We will catch up in the Facebook group during the week and we shall do it all again next year. Next week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.